Well, hello folks. Glad you could be with me today. Some bad news I heard on the television today about Taiwan. I hated to hear that. Good people, Taiwanese people. I've met a few. Mr. Lucky used to run their Lucky hotel over there. Fine man. Was a friend of my father's, and I got to know him real well. I went over there 2 times on R&R while I was in Vietnam, and I loved every minute of it. But what I'm going to tell you today is I started a story about my first father-in-law, Boyce, and I was going to go fishing, and he accidentally knocked it out of gear or something, and backed out into 30 foot of water and had to sit there and float a while before I got a hold of his mirror and brought him back in so he'd get the trailer out of the water and then the boat. But we got it all dried out, and I'm going to finish that fishing trip. So where we'll start at is we put back in at the same place, and but he didn't back out in the water this time. And like I say, we was using a small boat, and it was a aluminum type boat, but we was only going down to a small creek. It might have been classified as a river. A lot of them are. All they have to be is 100 mile long to be a river, and there's a lot of short, small creeks that's 100 mile long. It's called a river. But anyhow, we was going ling fishing. Now most people say, well, why was you going into a creek go ling fishing? Well, we wasn't going but about maybe 50 yards into the creek itself. But ling, or cobia, whichever one you want to call them, they follow the bait fish. And along about the last part of April and 1st of May, they're really on the prowl. They follow the coastline around and follow the bait fish that do the same thing. Well, when it's high tide, those bait fish will come up just in the mouth where that salt water comes up into the creek. They'll come up just into the mouth of that creek there, and because it was about 20 foot deep right there at that creek. And they would come in just to the mouth and make a circle and go right back out into the Gulf. And those cobia would follow right with them. And we could see the water was crystal clear, and we could see the cobia. They could be 4 foot deep, and we could still see them. And all you had to do was cast in front of them. I used I believe it was a 1 ounce doll fly most of the time, which was, I never had a problem catching anything with it. And I had a circle hook on it, and when they hit it, they was most generally hooked. I made my own doll fly, but that's the reason it had a circle hook on it. And we used circle hooks way back in saltwater, and they use them now for catfish. But we left the boat ramp there, and it wasn't too windy. It was a good calm day, and we rode our little aluminum boat down to, like I was telling you, where the water come into that little creek or little river, whichever it was. I don't remember the name of it. And so one of us being one end of the boat and one being the other end, and we had to take and anchor each end of the boat off so we could stay faced out toward the Gulf. And we could make as much as 150 yard cast, and a lot of times we'd see them just as they was coming into the little channel of the creek. Now, the minute that the tide started out, we had to move out about 200 yards more than what we did when tide was in. So the little creek experience was over at low tide. And actually, when it started dropping, it was over because the bait fish moved out very quickly. But we got in set up, and I think we had been set up about, boy, a long time. I want to say about 10 minutes. And tide was coming in pretty strong. And boy, them bait fish, you can see them bait fish flopping. And when you see them bait fish flopping, you can look where just before they, maybe 4 or 5 foot behind them, and you'll see those cobia swimming. And you'll see them darting into that school of bait fish. Well, we would take turns of casting in to where we would see them cobia. And the average ones we would catch there was around 50 or 60 pounds. They would run from 40 to 80, but we didn't catch one there very often that was 80 pounds, but we caught some 80 pounders, but we caught them more out in the Gulf. Now, when you get one on, it's not unusual for them to grab a bait, and this is the reason I went to a circle hook. They would grab a regular bait with a straight hook in it, and they would hold on to it until you drop the net in the water to net them, or a gaff if you're using a gaff. A gaff is a pole with a sharp hook on it, on the end of it, and you just pull it under their gills and gaff them. I don't like to do that because it kills the fish, and we was turning them loose. But anyhow, we caught, I'm wanting to say about 6 that day inside that period of time that we had to fish in the little creek. And it was just, oh, it was a beautiful day. It didn't get too hot. The wind wasn't blowing real bad, and you could see 4 or 5 foot in the water, even if you was looking out at 50 yards out. If you stood up, you can see. And most of the boats, now we had a boat that had a ling tower in it. It was a 19-foot runabout with a ling tower built on the front of it. And of course, it's my job being the ling tower, because I was the youngest back at the time. Boyce, he couldn't get up in the ling tower, but Eddie could. So me and Eddie took turns getting up in it. And you could see in the ling tower, you could see cobia 200 yards out from the boat with no problem at all. Now, a lot of times we'd see Jack Crevalis, and we'd fish, cast in front of Jack Crevalis, catch him too. We wouldn't keep none of them to eat. We only kept 1 cobia to eat per trip, and that's all you was allowed at the time. And Jack Crevalis, we didn't eat them at all, but they was fun to catch. They get about 45 to 50 pounds and fight like they was going to die. I mean, they fought hard, but so did the cobia. All saltwater fish do, basically. Red snapper, any of them. Now, when the regular season gets over for cobia, you can catch cobia all year long. But when the run stops, which that's usually about the last of May, I believe, best I can remember. But then you go out where the buoy markers were in the Gulf. They was probably 1 every half mile or mile, and we go out around them and we catch a cobia anytime we went out there, as long as you, because they all had bait fish around them, and as long as you had something similar to that bait fish, which was usually chofer, you could cast a chofer out live and have it hooked on a circle hook and catch them, or you could throw a dial fly painted up like a chofer and a little thinner than an actual dial fly would be. But you go on out to the oil rigs, but that was too far for us to go like with small boats. We had to have a 20-some footer really to go out to the oil rigs and be safe about it, because storm could come up while you're out there, and a lot of times getting under the oil rig edge of it wasn't enough to be safe because the waves beat you to death. So you couldn't outrun them waves back to the house. But when it was nice, we'd go out to the buoys and fish them. And there was a couple of wrecked ships that we knew where it was at. That the top of the ships come pretty close to around the top 15, 20, 30 water. And there was usually a buoy there to mark it, especially at low tide. But they usually a buoy on all of them so you know where they're at. If you don't know by marker, well, my mind went blank. Your grid coordinates, if you didn't know the grid coordinates of them. Most of the shippers, the pilots, they all knew the grid coordinates of them. But we would have. I thought I heard somebody come in. We'd have real good maps and stuff. That was my grandson's granddaughter. That's my future granddaughter. But we had some good times of fishing down there. I caught a hammerhead shark one time, me and Eddie fishing at night, and we fought it all night long, and then we called the wrecker the next morning, and the wrecker gave you free service if you had one to pull up and hang up and weigh. They would go down, pull it up with the wrecker, and get it up off the ground. And I caught one that was 11 foot long, and that picture of it hung in the bait house there on the dock for years, and finally just got so old you couldn't see the fish on it. Kind of like my moose picture. But anyhow, I'll give you that to chew on. This is kind of short, and you chew on that a while and see how you like it, and we'll have another one in a few days. God bless you, and y'all have a good night, and He'll bless you if you let Him. Good night. Bye.